Alrighty, let's tackle the final paragraph. So, again, we're picking apart this very lengthy comment that Melly Germany 9479 here decided to leave on my YouTube channel to this video that I posted a few months ago entitled "I Dare You Zay, Show Me How Hardcore You Are for the Journey." So I've already made videos going through and picking apart each of the previous paragraphs, and now we're down to the final one. And then I will likely be making more videos picking apart her next comment that she left after this one. So, why do you think you know for certain what other people think and feel? Well, I don't think I know for certain, but given that I'm a people, all right? I am a 40-year-old people. I'm a 40-year-old woman. I have 40 years of experience with other human beings. I have formal education, some formal education in psychology, in both in high school and in college, in abnormal psych. 40 years of observing other human beings, thinking about and studying and researching how the mind works, human nature versus animal nature. Also, to some extent, learning about what is the word I'm looking for? Learning about picking apart the minutia of human like facial expressions and body language, so on and so forth, and also just at least a solid couple of decades or more of just thinking about what people want and why they do the things they do, and sort of in a philosophical way trying to figure out the most important things in life, and by extension sort of trying to figure out why human beings are even here to begin with, and what we're striving for ultimately, even if we're not fully aware of it and conscious of it. So I would say that all of those things add up to my being able to at least best guess, assume what other people think and feel in most situations about most topics. All right? So there's that. I'm not a baby. I'm not in kindergarten. You're acting as if I'm not an alien from outer space. You're acting as if I have no grounds or basis for being able to get fairly close with my assumptions and my, what's the word I'm looking for? My analyses, something like that. My breakdown of what other people want and what they're thinking and what they're feeling. So, if you see somebody crying, if you see tears running out of someone's eyes, it's probably a 90% chance, at least a 90% chance that they're very sad. There's maybe the 10% is that they're like very overjoyed and relieved, right? So, yeah. And also, I have a basic idea of my, my base desires as a human being. We all want food. We all want, some sense of purpose in our lives. I think we all want connection. We all want to feel connected with other people. That's just something that's built into our species. We're a familial species. We like family. We like friendship. We like partnership, camaraderie. We're not really a rogue type of species. We're not great white sharks. So once you understand certain things and you've picked up a few books and studied certain things, like, again, human nature, human psychology, child development, abnormal psych, so on and so forth, and just sat and thought about this stuff for a very long time, It's not hard to work certain things out about other people. It's just maybe it's hard for you. Are you from another planet? I was about to say something like, maybe Germany counts as another planet. I don't know. All right. Why do you think that everybody has the same standards as you? And if they don't, then there must be something wrong with them. I don't think that everybody has the same standards as me. I do think that most people have the same standards as me, or they would if they were aware of it. So I think that there are a lot of people out there, I'd venture to say even most people in society today, who are not even totally aware of what they truly desire out of life and what their standards are and what their boundaries are, simply because they do not take the time to sit down and properly reflect upon themselves. So I'll give you a personal example. Throughout a lot of my high school years, I actually went around saying that I didn't want to have kids, that I didn't want to be a mom. Granted, some of that was because I was afraid that I wouldn't do a good job of it. But also a lot of me saying those words, it was really my mom's voice coming out of me. Because again, I was being groomed from a very young age, from the age of 4, to be an artist and live this sort of romanticized artist's life. And I didn't see a lot of room for child rearing and mothering and just settling down and having a family, being a stay-at-home mom. In that didn't seem, romantic and fun, like the life of an artist that had been sold to me up to that point. As a dumb teenager, what did I know? But then when I got, again, I've said this in the past, but when I got into my freshman year in art school in Chicago, I was afforded a lot more time to sit and think, and time away from my mom and outside influences. And I also had a good deal of psychology courses under my belt at that point. And I was trying to figure out what I wanted to major in art school, painting, photography, graphic design, whatever. And in the course of doing so, I wound up just boiling it down to and figuring out what I ultimately wanted out of life was actually to be a mommy. Was that I realized, I'm actually have always been a very nurturing person. I'm a natural caregiver. I was always that kid who brought home any little wounded animal that I could find, or stray animal that I could find. I cooed and worried over, my pets as a kid, like to the point of where I treated them like royalty, like little princesses and princes. Like my cat, she had her own little bed that I made for her. I gave her everything, that I could give her as a kid. And I also realized that I was far more disposed to psychology and trying to understand the human mind than I was to creating and making and being an artist. I preferred, my mind is more wired for trying to understand human development and why human beings do what they do. And to me, that seemed to be more aligned with rearing children. So rather than being an artist, if you study the typical artist's life, it's usually quite tragic and lonesome. So I'm thinking along the lines of Ernest Hemingway, Jackson Pollock, and all them. So I was under the misguided assumption, belief that I didn't want to be a mother, for a good chunk of my teenage years, because I was not afforded the ability to really stop and think about it. And I was not taught to really think for myself about what I wanted and who I really was. I was taught to be a rebel, but a rebel within the confines of a sort of a prescribed image of an artist, if that makes sense. I was taught to sort of like be averse to things and do things differently and be different and weird, but only because like that was the romantic image of the artist that, you know, my mother had, and that she was trying to push upon me. But I'm actually really not that weird. I'm not a huge outlier. I'm a pretty basic biatch, if I'm being truthful. I'm pretty status quo and standard, I think, in most things, in terms of my desires, in terms of what motivates me, in terms of my fears. I'd say I'm about average. And so again, that's also why I feel like I can, to some degree, speak for most of the human population, because again, most implies that is the mean, that is the average. If it's most of the people, then they are the average, they are the standard. And if I'm average, then I'm amongst, you know, that group of people. Again, at least in terms of certain things. I do, whatever, take this as you will, call me narcissistic. I can only live so long and have so many interactions with so many different people before I just have to concede the fact that I am smarter than the average bear. I am more intelligent than most people. So maybe in certain ways, I stand out, and I'm not, you know, I'm not average. But I think in a lot of the most basic things, I'm pretty average. You know, I'm not you know, desiring to go around putting babies' heads on spikes. You know, like that's way the fuck out there. You know. Anyway. Where were we? Why do you think that everybody has the same standards? I do think that most people have the same standards that I do, or roughly the same standards. I do think that most people are not aware of that. I think that you'd be surprised how many people out there have not consciously put together, you know, that they want certain things, like that they need a purposeful life, that they want a life that has purpose to it, rather than a life sitting around playing video games. And I'm not the only person to say this. A lot of very intelligent people with lots and lots of degrees from different colleges in, you know, in studying human psychology, so on and so forth, and studying what drives us and what makes us sad and depressed and what makes us happy and fulfilled. A lot of people out there, feel free to go look them up, have said this, that human beings need to have some sense of a purposeful life, or else they're just not happy. They might distract themselves into thinking that they're happy, but they're not happy. Anyway. Do you not sense... So yeah, and most people just wouldn't understand that. They don't stop to think about these things, nor do they stop to study or research these things. So they don't know themselves very well. That doesn't mean they don't have the same standards that I do, though. You know, they might have... Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, deep down, ultimately, they truly have the same standards, same desires, same fears. They're just not aware of it. All right? There. I made my point there. Good. Do you not sense that there is something not quite right for you to speak on behalf of everybody and proclaim that everybody given the choice will always choose having a family over everything else in their life? Okay, again, I did not say everybody. I said almost everybody. I said most people. And I believe I said with the exception of, or implied with the exception of particularly idiotic people or psychopaths, you know, that their psychology veers so far off the norm that one could understand why they might not want the same things as, you know, your typical average human being. And then as for the idiots, I just explained that, you know, lots of people out there that are, you know, for whatever reason, low IQ, or they were just not taught how to think critically, how to go inside, internally reflect upon themselves and what they really want. To some degree, that's, you know, that is a level of idiocy. So, so as I said, one of the biggest things human beings need is we need to feel like we have a purposeful life, or else we do not feel fulfilled. Another thing is we need to feel connected. We need to have friendships, families. We need to have some kind of, typically some kind of partnership, if not children and the whole shebang. We do not do well alone. We don't do well as rogues. We just don't. That is built into the very nature of our species, honey. That is just the way it is. So again, unless you're an alien from outer space, a pod person pretending to be a human being, like, it baffles me, it puzzles me that you don't understand these things. Other than to chalk it up to, oh, you're just as idiotic as those people I'm speaking of. Like, the only excuse for that would be like, oh, you just don't know how to think critically. You don't know how to reflect. You don't know how to understand yourself. You were not taught these things. You did not go seeking to learn these things, so on and so forth. And so that does imply some level of idiocy on your part. And anyone who, follows suit. Anyone who doesn't understand some of these basic things about just what it is to be a human being. We need connection. We need a purposeful life. Without these things, we are not happy. We do not feel fulfilled. And again, we're not supposed to be happy all the time, but there should be a general sense of contentment overall for most of your life, because otherwise it's just a torturous life, right? Nobody wants to live a life of torture. So I'm not saying that you should be happy all the time. I've already said that. That simply can't be if you want a meaningful life and a purposeful life. There has to be you have to come up against some struggles and some obstacles, and at least try to fight them, battle them, overcome them. Yeah. Let me just reread that sentence just to make sure I've adequately answered it. Do you not sense that there is something not quite right for you to speak on behalf of everybody and proclaim that everybody given the choice will always choose having a family over everything else in their life? Honestly, make of it what you will, but no, I don't. I don't feel that there is something not quite right about it. Again, I'm not speaking for everybody. I'm speaking for most people. I'm even speaking for people who, to some degree, would claim that they have different desires in their life, that they would make different choices. And the reason I'm saying I speak for them is because I think that a lot of people out there are idiots. And they might say, like, no, I wouldn't choose the family, but that's because they don't know themselves. They just don't know themselves. They were not taught how to know themselves. But I did not say everybody, because I can't even begin to put myself, well, I can begin to some degree. I can try to understand the inside workings of the mind of a psychopath, for example. But again, they lack the ability for empathy, like total lack of empathy. I have an abundance of empathy, and so it's hard for me to some degree to understand psychopaths, to totally wrap my mind around them. So, yeah, that's why I try not to speak for them. I try not to speak for everybody, but I think I know enough about people to be able to speak for most. All right, and then I do find it very puzzling that you are making statements as if they were fact. I'm sure you find a lot of things puzzling, honey. What statements exactly are you taking issue with that I'm saying as if they're fact? Like the fact that human beings require a purposeful life in order to feel fulfilled? unless they are psychopaths, because then they might not need a purposeful life. They might just need to go around hurting people to feel invigorated and validated and powerful. That's not the same as having a purposeful life, just going around being a big bully and a detriment to society. That's not the same thing. And I already made this point in the video, but like, I'll keep driving it home if I have to. I mean, dang. Yeah, there's lots of statements that I can definitely say for fact because they are facts. If you really can't make the distinction between your wishes and values and the wishes and values of others, and if you really think that if people do have different ambitions, dreams, and a different set of values, that this means that there is something wrong with them, then I am afraid that I have to tell you that there is something rather worrying about your attitude. I think I've already, just with everything I've said already, like I absolutely can. Let's go back. Let's reread it real quick. There's part of it. If you really can't make the distinction between your wishes and values and the wishes and values of others. So I absolutely can make the distinction between my wishes and values and the wishes and values of others. But again, I do think, and I've also experienced this. I've literally led other people through mind experiments, just talking to them to make them realize that they actually wanted things that they thought they never wanted, or to make them realize that they actually don't want things that they always thought they wanted. Because again, a lot of people out there are not aware of themselves. They're not aware of what their true ambitions are. They're not aware of what their true dreams are. A lot of people walking around out there have a lot of ambitions and dreams that have been downloaded into them by society, movies, music, like all that nonsense, by their parents. Most people out there, I would venture to say most people out there are not aware of their true ambitions and dreams and desires. They are just not. It's unfortunate. I'm not pleased with it, but again, I can only live so long and have so many experiences with other human beings before I have to come to this conclusion. That's just the way it is. Once more with this last sentence, if you really can't make the distinction between your wishes and values and the wishes and values of others, and if you really think that if people do have different ambitions, dreams, and a different set of values, that this means that there is something wrong with them, then I am afraid that I have to tell you that there is something rather worrying about your attitude. There's something rather worrying about you stalking me. So here's the deal, honey. I really do think that for one thing, how should I put this? So I think that your involvement on my YouTube channel is layered. So first of all, I think that you initially got involved with my YouTube channel because I do think that you are somehow connected with this network of child abusers, child traffickers that commit incest, basically pedophiles and just child rapists. Yeah, I'm just gonna say, I hate how YouTube has just banned the word rape practically, but I'm not trying to make money off this video, so whatever. It's a valid word, the fact that I have to hear people say they assayed the children. It's like, you mean they raped them? Anyway, I do think that you're connected with that network. One way or the other. You're either hired to harass me by them, or you're a member of the network. And you still haven't even denied that, by the way. I've accused you of this a few times now, and you have not denied it. That's interesting. But I also think that, you could be choosing any number of my videos to harass me about and comment upon. Why did you choose this particular video? I think that because this particular video hit a nerve with you, a personal nerve. I would be curious to know if you have a partner or children. If I had to venture a guess, I would say no. I would say you took a personal offense to my video because for whatever reason you do not have a partner and or children. And I if you'd like, I could guess at reasons why. I mean, if you're a part of a network that abuses children, that could be one reason right there. I know a lot of females, I've known a lot of females out there that chose, at least for a long time, to forego partnership, children, family. And again, it was for misguided reasons. They didn't really know themselves. And then when someone like me turns around and says, but actually that's the most important thing, and it's the most meaningful thing, and that's where you're going to get the most meaningful, lovely life experiences from, they get very, very offended and they get very upset. And I do feel like a lot of that comes from them knowing that I'm correct. Yeah. And they don't want to admit it because they don't, you're not, first of all, another reason is they can't offer any real arguments to the contrary, and neither have you. You have not, thus far, you still have not given any kind of a compelling argument on your side for what is more meaningful than family. I've been citing things like mitochondrial DNA. Amelia Earhart, her name will be forgotten one day. In 1,000 years, 2,000 years, everything she did will be forgotten. Nobody will know her or remember her, and her impact on the world, whatever it's been, or will be, that will end and that will fade. However, the other women of her generation who choose to settle down and have children, they will pass down their mitochondrial DNA, and their mitochondrial DNA will still survive and exist thousands of years from now, assuming that the species isn't wiped out. So their DNA will still be making an impact on the world long after Amelia Earhart is just a nameless ghost that nobody knows about, that nobody remembers, that we have no records of, so on and so forth. That's one bit of, part of my argument. That's just one part of my argument that I've been making for why, what I keep saying is the truth, that having a family is the most meaningful thing you can do with your life. And if the meaning of life is to live a meaningful life, and if human beings need to have a purposeful life in order to feel fulfilled, and if it's built into us as a species to require a feeling of connectedness, if we're a familial species, if we require partnership, so on and so forth, in order to feel satisfied and fulfilled, well then, all these things just check off, the family just checks off all those boxes. It can be personally fulfilling in the short term and meaningful in the short term, but then again, also in the long run, in the long term, the greater overall impact that it has on society, your children, your children's children, so on and so forth. Just I've been actually putting forth a real argument and making actual points. You are not. You're still not doing that. Again, you've said some stuff like, I have friends that have chosen not to have kids or partner, and they're perfectly happy. And my counter to that was, the point was not what makes you happy. The point is what is meaningful. What life should you aspire to if the meaning of life is to live a meaningful life? What kind of life is the best life to be aspiring to? What is the best thing to fulfill that? Again, family. That's the argument I've been making this whole time, even in the video, the original video that you made this comment on. So it's for you to say like, well, I have friends, they don't have families and they're perfectly happy. That's not the point. Are they meaningful? Do they have a meaningful life? If so, what is their meaningful life? What's so meaningful about their life? What do they do that's so meaningful? Are they curing cancer? Like, what huge long-term impact are they making on our species, on the planet as a whole, that's making their life meaningful? What's purposeful about their lives? And is it, by comparison, more meaningful and more purposeful than having a family? And yes, I do think that can, in some ways, be somewhat gauged. You still have not answered these questions. I fear it's because I'm sort of like, I outclass you in terms of debate, first of all. In terms of of critical thinking, being able to pick apart an argument, being able to pick apart my own argument, find flaws in my argument, find flaws in my opponent's argument, shore that shit up, so on and so forth. You are not coming at me with any kind of strong debate. You're just not. You're just annoying, is what you're doing. To some degree, I do think I have to consider that perhaps this is a way to, well, you're trying to, first of all, demoralize me and make me feel like a piece of shit, but you're doing a bad job of it. Because I've just made several videos pointing out about how you're very, very wrong, and I'm right. I think you're also maybe attempting to waste my time, hoping that I'll focus on you and debating with you rather than taking more steps to expose people like Zay Frank, and his father, Joachim Frank, and his family, and other people connected with them, like Jonah Peretti and his sister, Chelsea Peretti, and her husband, Jordan Peele, for being a part of a network that I think engages in child abuse, ritual child abuse. I do think that you're trying to distract me from that to some degree, but I think that you're somewhat failing at that as well, because I am, at the very least, mentioning it repeatedly in my responses to you and getting the word out there that much more. Yeah? There was another point I wanted to make somewhere along the line about... Oh, no, yeah, I'll make it for the next comment. That's right. It aligns itself better with the next comment. But, all right, yeah, I think that I've done enough to pick apart this particular comment of yours. Again, like, yeah, I'll talk about it more when I go into your next comment, because I believe that one, you were like, why are you assuming I'm a stalker? It's like, because of this. Look at all this. Because you go out of your way to do this on my YouTube channel. Because you've been haunting my YouTube channel for like a couple of years now, something like that. And occasionally leaving these essays in the comments, rather than getting distracted and moving on to other channels like other people typically do. My channel's not really that big. I have somewhere around 370 subscribers. I get maybe like an average of 20 views or something like that per video, like an average of maybe 15 to 20 views. So it's not like YouTube would be really pushing my channel like it's, hot business. The other thing I have to consider is that you might be trying to engage me in debates where I will just give you intellectual information that you wouldn't be able to drum up on your own, and then you might try to take credit for my intellectual information. Like maybe you're writing a book or an essay or something, and you're just going to take all the stuff that I'm saying and try to pass it off as your original thoughts and realizations. And let me tell you, that's just very, very uncool. Uncool. That would make you a loser. Like, I mean, an even bigger loser than I already think you are. Is that ad hominem enough for you? No, we'll get into that. We'll get into that with your next comment, picking apart your next comment. All right, so let's finish up this video right here, and expect the next one in not too much time.